2 million years ago, before cities, before written words, before even the concept of civilization was born, a small figure stood under the blazing African sun. The vast savanna stretched endlessly, golden grass bending with the wind, predators lurking just beyond sight. And there, in the heart of this ancient world, lived one of the first true humans, Homo habilis. They were not yet masters of the earth. They did not build monuments, nor write their names in history. But they carried something more powerful than muscle or claw, the spark of a mind that was beginning to awaken. This was the dawn of us. And to understand their struggle is to glimpse the fragile moment when humanity itself first took root. The African savanna was both cradle and battlefield. Herds of antelope thundered across the plains, while lions, saber-toothed cats, and giant hyenas ruled the shadows. Every day was a gamble between survival and death. For Homo habilis, survival meant balance, courage without recklessness, intelligence without arrogance, unity without weakness. They were small, fragile compared to the beasts around them, standing little more than 4 feet tall. Yet in their hands, chipped stones became tools, and tools became lifelines. With a shard of rock, they could break bones to reach the hidden marrow, a source of rich fat and energy that no predator could easily access. With stone edges, they could scrape hides, cut meat, and shape the future. Picture a small band moving together across the savanna. The heat is merciless, the ground cracked, and the scent of dry grass mixes with the metallic tang of nearby carcasses. Buzzards circle overhead. The group walks silently, eyes scanning, ears twitching at the faintest rustle. They are not hunters in the way lions are. They are opportunists, clever scavengers who know that patience often yields more than brute strength. Where a leopard leaves its kill unattended, Homo habilis dares to creep in, breaking bones with their stone tools, stealing nourishment that others overlook. In those stolen scraps of marrow and flesh lies the energy to walk further, to think deeper, to imagine. And yet, life was not only about food. The savanna was a teacher, harsh and relentless. The nights brought cold winds, the cries of predators echoing in the dark. Imagine huddling together, pressed close, bodies sharing warmth while eyes glowed in the fireless dark. Fire would come later, long after Homo habilis. For now, survival meant the safety of numbers. Every member of the group mattered, each set of eyes to watch for danger, each pair of hands to carry stones or gather roots. Their bonds were not just instinct but the first whispers of what would one day become human society. Mothers cradled infants, their survival uncertain in such a brutal world. Children learned not through words, but through imitation, watching older hands chip stone, watching sharp flakes fall, watching the world carved into new shapes. A child holding a stone for the first time was more than play, it was practice for survival, practice for life. And as those children learned, the group's knowledge deepened. This transfer of skill, stone to hand to mind, was humanity's first inheritance. Homo habilis did not roam the plains alone. They moved among giants, elephants larger than any alive today, towering giraffes, and monstrous crocodiles waiting in rivers. The land itself was alive with danger and opportunity. But the most profound challenge was not the beasts, nor the climate, it was time itself. Every day was a race against hunger, a race to gather enough before darkness fell. In that constant race, their minds sharpened. They remembered where fruits ripened, where waterholes formed, where predators prowled. Memory, planning, and foresight, these were not luxuries, but survival weapons. And with each generation, those abilities grew stronger. Consider the moment when one of them, crouched over a stone, struck it just right, creating an edge sharper than any claw. That sound, the sharp crack of stone on stone, was the sound of evolution itself. A single edge could decide whether a family starved or survived. They had no words to name it, but they knew its power. And in those shards lay the beginnings of technology, the silent seed of the world we know today. The African savanna did not forgive weakness. As the dry season stretched long, rivers shrank into muddy pools, and grass withered into brittle stalks. Herds of animals moved further and further in search of water, and Homo habilis followed in their shadow. To live meant to move, to never stay long in one place, because the savanna changed with the seasons, and only those who adapted endured. Imagine a weary group crossing a parched plain. The sun burns relentlessly overhead, their bellies hollow, their throats dry. Every step is a gamble. Behind them, the bones of those who failed mark the earth. Ahead of them, the promise of water and food, though it is only a promise, not a certainty. This was migration, not by choice, but by necessity. Food was always at the heart of their existence. They gathered roots, berries, and nuts, carefully testing what was safe, learning from bitter mistakes. A wrong bite could mean death. Yet the greatest prize was always meat. To find the remains of a kill was like finding gold in the dust. But to reach it required courage. They had no fangs like hyenas, no speed like cheetahs, no sheer strength like lions. What they had was patience, intelligence, and the will to risk everything for survival. Picture them waiting in the tall grass, watching as vultures wheel above a carcass. They know the signal: where the birds circle, flesh waits. But they also know predators may be near. Their hearts pound as they creep closer, every sense alive. And when the chance is right, they strike, stones in hand, cracking bones, carving scraps of meat. The reward is fleeting, but in that fleeting reward lies life itself. The group was more than a collection of individuals. It was a fragile community, bound together by need. Without each other, they were nothing. Alone, one could not survive long. Together, they stood a chance. This unity was the first step toward the social bonds that define humanity today. Mothers guarded their infants fiercely, fathers and siblings sharing the burden of protection. If one found food, others benefited. If one spotted danger, all reacted. Communication was not yet language as we know it, but gestures, cries, and instinctive sounds that carried meaning. A warning call, a reassuring touch, a shared glance, these were the first sparks of cooperation. Children were the heart of hope. They were fragile, often lost to disease or predators, but every surviving child carried the future forward. Imagine a young boy crouched in the dust, watching his elders strike stone against stone. He tries it himself, clumsy at first, cutting his hand, but determined. Slowly he learns the angle, the pressure, the rhythm. A sharp edge falls into his hand. He smiles, not with words, but with the spark of understanding. In that moment, knowledge is passed from one generation to the next. It is not written, not spoken, but lived. That boy may one day provide for his group with the very skill he is learning now. But the savannah was merciless to the careless. Predators stalked constantly. Lions crouched in the tall grass, crocodiles lurked in rivers, leopards dragged kills into trees. Even giant eagles sometimes snatched away infants. Every movement demanded vigilance. Imagine a night when the group huddles together under the stars, the air filled with the distant howls of hyenas. A shadow moves at the edge of camp. Heartbeats race, eyes widen. A lion prowls near, muscles rippling in the moonlight. The group shrinks together, clutching stones, making desperate noises to scare it away. For a moment, it seems hopeless. But then, perhaps the lion loses interest, turning away to find easier prey. The group breathes again. Survival, this time, was granted. Tomorrow may not be so merciful. Seasons turned, generations passed, and still Homo habilis endured. They did not conquer the savannah. They adapted to it, bending but not breaking. Their brains grew larger than those of their ancestors, giving them an edge in memory, planning, and problem-solving. They remembered where waterholes formed after rain, where fruit trees bore harvests, where danger lurked. With every choice, their minds sharpened. With every challenge, they grew. It was not a leap, but a slow, steady climb toward something greater. Consider the emotional world they lived in. They were not machines of survival alone. When a member of the group fell, there was sorrow. A mother cradling her lifeless infant, refusing to let go. Companions lingering near the body of one taken by predators, hesitant to leave, reluctant to abandon. These moments reveal something profound: empathy. The stirrings of emotions that would one day define humanity, grief, compassion, loyalty, were already alive in those ancient hearts. They may not have understood death as we do, but they felt its weight. In their silence, in their hesitation, lay the seeds of love and loss. The dawn of technology continued to shape their existence. Every new tool was a weapon against extinction. A sharper flake meant faster cutting, less time exposed to danger at a carcass. A heavier hammerstone meant deeper cracks into bones, more marrow, more strength. Slowly, tools evolved, and with them, so did thought. In those tools lay the earliest echo of all human invention, the spark that would one day create fire, wheels, ships, and satellites. But Homo habilis did not know the future. For them, there was only the moment, the hunger in their bellies, the thirst in their throats, the fear in their bones, the hope in their eyes. They lived on the edge, never certain, always fighting, always enduring. And yet, from their struggle, something miraculous grew. They were not yet Homo sapiens, not yet us, but they were the bridge. Without them, there would be no humanity. Without their courage, no cities, no art, no knowledge. The vast story of humankind begins here, in the dust and danger of the African savanna. As the sun sets over the grasslands, their silhouettes move together, small against the vast horizon. To a predator, they are fragile prey. To the earth, they are a fleeting presence. But to history, they are everything. For in their footsteps lies the path that leads to us. They carried the spark of thought, the courage to adapt, the will to endure. They were the first to shape stone, the first to shape destiny. 2 million years ago, under the same sky that covers us now, Homo Habilis began the long, uncertain journey that would one day create humanity. And though their bones now rest silent in the earth, their legacy breathes in every one of us.